is that there's a little wise owl who lives down below and has a wall, a dam between him and the rest of the world as he undertakes to steal power from the women on the planet. But before that happens, he must stop everything from happening, back things down, and restart them again at a later date in a way that people who live through the transition will not remember the past and believe that life on this planet began 6,000 years ago instead of 60,000 years ago. So I'll stop now. I'm always accused of speaking too long. I don't know how to explain 60,000 years of activity in less time than I do. I've practiced for years and years and years, but yet if I were to explain this thing to you and had all the time I needed, it would probably take me 40 years. So after the break, we'll come back and we'll deal with the period of time following the Ice Age until the advent of the third religion out of Jerusalem. Thank you. Have a good walk, and you can start this over when you're ready. And you can repeat it as many times as you need to over the next year or two or three, because you're going to need to understand what's happening in your induced existence on this planet. Okay, so I'm back. It's 11:21 our time here. You may see a different time on the film here, on the video, because I did not reset the time from its original setting in California, so we may be a few minutes off on the time and a few hours off because of the time zone here being 3 hours different than California. In any event, what we were talking about was a group of people unknown to most who live on the planet today by the name of Neanderthaler, but known basically to a group of individuals who managed the world through priesthoods and have fronting for them transnational corporations on one side and government and politics on the other side, managed by a group we call the media, and by that not just news media, but the extended media that includes Hollywood, it includes publishers, it includes anyone in the professions who do work that is not required work for the production of goods, but more as a service industry, and architects, accountants, lawyers, doctors fall into that category. The name media basically comes from a city or a country in what was formerly Persia, southern Iran, capital city called Susa, which is very much incorporating the letters of USA, and the country being Media. Its relationships are to Kurds and Basques, and Australia, Austria, and their basic job is to polarize the two teams on any argument, whether the argument be about creation versus evolution, without ever allowing a discussion of the role of genetic engineering as being fundamental to the premise of the things we are discussing here today. And when election time comes, of course, they have a number of ways of manipulating the events in such a way that the choices become obvious, or they force decisions through, say, the Supreme Court, which is part of the extended media, police, prisons, jurisdictions that basically provide services, education, universities. So we were basically dealing with this this group of people called Neanderthals. We don't have to worry too much about explaining how the human being acts today. That's pretty obvious to all of you out there. If there are things such as infiltration of women's groups using gender modification, I'll explain it along the way. But generally speaking, we know that there's a group of people who have been convinced they're free without having anyone explain the fact that by free it meant they cost the Neanderthals nothing in order to get and obtain their services. The Ice Age on Antarctica forced a major change in the location of the home of Neanderthals. They had basically planned to be on the island, on the surface, away from all of this riffraff they were going to create. However, with the Ice Age coming on and affecting Antarctica, it sent them back to the mountains and to the caves. But to them, there came an advantage. If I was, and I have never visited, but if I were invited to go to an area controlled by Neanderthals today, I would suggest that the area under what is called Queen Maud land in Australia would be a good place to start, and the entry points would be at the Kemp Coast. We are in Kemptville, Ontario. That is the Kemp Coast of Antarctica. And the middle place between here and there is a place in the mountains in northern Yemen, southern Saudi Arabia, called Empty Quarter. So EMPT is basically the link that ties all of this stuff together.